You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Arias, in talking about what happened on June 4th, you testified to not remembering much at all after the gunshot and him falling on you, correct?
Yes.
Okay. But at other points in time, you were asked if you were the one who stabbed him. Do you remember being asked that?
Yes.
Okay. And you said that you were, right?
Yes.
Are you basing your answer that yes, you were the one who stabbed him on a memory or on the logic of the fact that you were the only one who could have done it?
The latter, just on logic.
Okay. As it relates to the question that you were asked about slashing his throat, do you recall being asked if you were the one who slashed his throat?
Yes.
Do you have any memory of doing that?
No.
Would I be correct in assuming then you are just filling in the blank? Logically, you must have been the one because you were the only one there.
Objection, meaning also relevance as to whether or not he would be correct.
Approach, please. Continue.
You don't remember slashing his throat, correct?
Objection, meaning
Sustained.
Do you have any memories of slashing Mr. Alexander's throat?
No.
When you were asked on cross-examination if you did that, do you recall telling us that you did?
Yes.
Was that a recollection or a logical assumption on your part?
It was definitely not a recollection, so it was just based on the facts that I knew.
The gaps or the lack of memory that you have as it relates to these events and as you tell them on different occasions, do you sometimes find yourself putting in these assumptions into your memories?
I have made attempts to piece things back together, and so based on what I've learned since, there's still big blanks. So I don't know, but I know certain facts that can't be refuted, but it doesn't mean that I know those facts because I remember them.
Are you telling us then that you want to remember what happened on June 4th?
objection to relevance and beyond scope.
Approach, please. Overruled. You may continue.
The events of June 4th, 2008. Do you want to remember those?
There's a part of me that doesn't ever want to remember it, and a part of me that I feel like I'm
Judge, she's not answering the question, Judge.
Overruled.
I feel like I'm the person who deserves to sit with those memories that I don't have right now.
You feel a desire to punish yourself with those memories?
Objection, leading.
Is that what you're telling us?
Objection, leading.
Why do you feel like you deserve to live with those memories?
Because they were my actions, and it's my responsibility.
Now, as it relates to just stepping back to a memory a little bit, you were asked about Miss LaViolette and whether you ever told her that you saw Mr. Alexander viewing child pornography on the computer. Do you remember doing that?
Telling her that?
Mm-hmm.
I never told her that.
Now, when you spoke about June 4th with Mr. Martinez, we saw a clip of yourself and Detective Flores. We saw that clip several times where you were talking about shower pictures. You recall talking to Detective Flores about that, seeing that clip of last week?
Yes.
And part of that clip dealt with Travis not going for it and these pictures of him shaving. You remember that?
Yes.
You were also shown during that point in time Exhibit 159. A moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Perhaps if Mr. we could approach.
Mr. Martinez, please approach.
The cross-examination as to this issue of shaving, Exhibit 159. Do you recall being shown that?
Yes.
Back up a little bit here. And you recall being asked in conjunction with that picture whether or not Mr. Alexander was freshly shaved in that photo. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And to your recollection, do you remember seeing him shave that day?
I was not aware of him shaving at all that day.
Judge, I didn't hear what she said.
Just repeat
I'm
your
sorry.
answer.
I was not aware of him shaving at all that day.
Now, I want to zoom in. You said you looked like he was freshly shaven. You take a look at that image.
Yes.
Do you see what appears to be stubble on his face?
Objection, leading.
Overruled.
Yes.
So then would you say then, looking at that picture, that he was indeed not freshly shaven?
Objection made.
Overruled.
I see the stubble. Travis didn't have stubble when he shaved. Sometimes there might have been a shadow left behind, so that picture may not tell, but I do see stubble there above his mouth and on his chin.
Okay. Now, you were also asked about, and in this photograph, you were asked about a shaving incident and following up on this stubble, and it went back and forth several times about pictures you took of him shaving. You've just told us that you did not see Mr. Alexander shaving on June 4th, correct?
Objection received. The testimony, she said she doesn't remember. Doesn't know.
Restate your question.
Okay. Did you take pictures of Mr. Alexander shaving on June 4th?
No, I did not.
On other occasions, had you taken photographs of Mr. Alexander shaving?
Yes, one occasion.
And do you remember that occasion, when that took place?
It was early 2008.
And that picture, was that immediately erased, or did that go anywhere?
They were a series of photos and they were saved. I probably erased the ones that didn't turn out great, but they were saved.
To your knowledge, did he ever post any of those pictures online?
Yes, at least one that I know of, maybe more.
And where would he have posted those?
MySpace. I don't know about his Facebook.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I don't know about Facebook, but I know I saw it on MySpace.
I want to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 513. You take a look at that, please.
Okay.
And what is that?
That's a picture of Travis shaving.
Was that a true and accurate depiction of the picture you took of him shaving back in early part of the year in 2008?
Yes, and if my memory serves me correctly, it was early 2008.
Okay.
It was several months before June.
Okay.
That was in the mirror.
And this photograph that's in 513, was that the photograph you were referring to when you were talking to Detective Flores about taking pictures of him shaving, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to move to admit Exhibit 513.
No objection.
513 is admitted.
That's the picture you took of Travis shaving.
Yes, that's one of them from that same day.
Okay. But that's the one you were talking about.
Objection made.
Sustained.
Taken with his permission?
Yes.
And on that same clip, when we were talking about this picture of Mr. Alexander shaving, there was discussion about this photo shoot, we'll call it in the shower. You were discussing that with Detective Flores on the clip. You recall that?
Yes.
Okay. Was that discussion, did that discussion directly precede June 4th, or was that months in advance?
It began months in advance.
Okay.
And we've discussed it a few times in between that time and June 4th.
Okay. Had you, prior to June 4th, had you taken pictures of Mr. Alexander in the shower?
No.
Now, as it related to this incident, you made some comments that Travis would never let you take pictures of him in the shower. Do you recall that?
Yes.
When you were making that comment, were you referring to June 4th, 2008, or were you referring to a day that preceded that day?
Well, I said that a few times, so there were two different contexts. He would never have wanted the pictures of his waist up prior to June 4th, well, prior to getting in shape, prior to the Cancun announcement and all that. But as he got in shape, that was something we had discussed as he was getting in shape. And then I also said to Flores, no, he would never go for that, because I was still trying to deny the fact that I was even there.
Okay. So these pictures we see on June 4th were something that had been discussed months in advance of June 4th. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Overruled.
And they were something, to understand your if I understand your testimony correctly, they were something that took place on June 4th because Travis felt satisfied enough with his body to allow this to occur. Is that accurate?
Objection to the meeting and also relevance as to counsel's satisfaction.
Sustained.
Why did the photo shoot of Mr. Alexander's shower not take place prior to June 4th?
I hadn't seen him since April, and he wasn't quite where he wanted to be with his physique. And by June 4th, he was very proud of how he had more muscle tone and that could be visible.
Okay. Now, when we spoke about what happened on June 4th, one of the things that was discussed, you were shown Exhibit 249. And when you were shown Exhibit 249, several issues about this diagram were discussed. What I want to draw your attention to is a couple of things. You testified about dropping the camera when you were taking these pictures. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And could you point to us, as best as you can recall, approximately where you were when you dropped this camera?
I was approximately where number 4 would be, somewhere between 3, 4, 74.
Where did you mark that for us on the screen?
It's an estimation, but maybe right about somewhere right there.
Okay. And you were back that distance from what you told us before is because you didn't want the can of water to get on the camera, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you testified that at some point in time, well, let me ask you this. When you were there where you have marked for us, was that where you were when you dropped the camera?
I was right about there.
When you dropped the camera, do you recall if you were standing or squatting?
I was squatting.
Okay. When the camera dropped, where did it come to rest? As best you can recall, as best you can approximate. Could you show us on that?
Yeah, I was facing, I guess it would be south, because we were looking together at the pictures as I was deleting them, and then when I went to adjust the camera again, and
Objection, she's where, not for a narration.
The statement.
Let's first start with where the camera wound up, came to a rest after you dropped it.
I want to say, it rolled a little bit, so somewhere right, maybe around here.
Okay, around that area, all right. Now, once that happened, and I don't want to use directions as it relates to north, south, east, and west. We'll do it relative to the items we see in here, okay?
Okay.
You were facing towards, in the first position when you dropped the camera, you were facing towards items 3 and 4. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. And
I'm sorry, I was facing more south. I was kind of lined up next to
no,
Travis.
let's not use north, south, east, and west. What were you facing in this diagram?
I would have been facing more toward the bathroom, the toilet area. I mean, when the camera dropped is what I mean. I was facing Travis when I was taking pictures of him, and then we turned this way so we could look at the photos, the short set.
Okay. And so you actually had your back to the shower when you dropped the camera, correct?
More like my back to the closet area.
Okay, all right. And the camera comes to its resting place near the tub. After you drop the camera, what do you do?
My first thought was to pick it up. It didn't have a long distance that it fell, and it landed on the mat, but it rolled onto the tile. It didn't sound good, but my first thought was that. And then I didn't have time to really think much else after that.
Okay. So that spot where the marker is now, is that approximately where he tackled you?
Are you talking about the last marker that I made?
Mm-hmm.
Approximately, yes.
Okay. Now, when he tackled you,
I'm sorry, that's where I landed, just to be clear.
okay, when you landed in that area, you talked about getting an impact to your head. Remember testifying to that?
Yes.
Okay. At any point in time, were you aware of the fact that you lost, or were you aware of losing consciousness?
No, I don't know if I did or not. I just remember, things start to get a little bit blurry, but I don't remember blacking out at that point.
Now, this occasion here that we were talking about, you also made the comment, using your words, that you got the wind knocked out of you. Do you recall telling Mr. Martinez that?
Yes.
Okay. When you said that, you were making a medical diagnosis, were you?
No.
Kind of a figure of speech?
Yes.
All right. We talked about on cross-examination how after this happened, Mr. Alexander was on top of you, correct?
He was standing over me.
Okay. Standing over you, you were on the ground.
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember whether or not you had the camera in your hand?
I did not at that point.
Okay. And he was standing over you around your shin or knees, is what you testified to.
Yes, to my right.
Okay. To your right. And you testified to your recollection that he was yelling at you, right?
Yes, he was.
Do you recall what he was saying?
I only recall those two things that he said about me being an idiot and that a 5-year-old could hold a camera better than me, and he was using profanities when he said those things.
Okay. Do you remember what profanities he was using?
The F word, mostly.
So he's over you yelling, "You're an idiot." You drop the camera, even a 5-year-old will hold the camera, correct?
Objection, leading, yes, and answer.
Overruled.
Somewhat, but that's very mild compared to how
Okay.
it was.
My interpretation is mild
Yes.
of what he was doing. Okay. So when he's over you like this, looking down at you in a more aggressive manner than I'm going to display here, are you having that same reaction that you've had before? Are you shaking? Are you in a fog?
It's more like heightened fear. All of a sudden, I don't know at that point if I was shaking yet. It was all very fast. So I don't know if I even had time to shake. It just started happening. It all happened very fast, and I was very scared.
So you remember when he's over you saying, "You're an idiot," you drop the camera, even a 5-year-old could hold the camera, you're fearful.
Yes, he's angry now.
And you remember when you were down there, you remember what he did before, didn't you? You remember that he choked you to the point of losing consciousness, didn't you?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
Did you remember the fact that this man who was glaring over you on that day had, in prior occasions, choked you to the point you lost consciousness? Did you remember that?
Yes, the very last time previous to this day that he got on top of me was when he choked me and I lost consciousness, and I didn't want him to have the advantage of that position again.
The advantage of that position again. You say that. Were you scared that this was somehow, did you sense that this was somehow different than any other occasion that he'd been violent with you?
It was almost the angriest I'd ever seen him. His anger escalated after the gun went off, but yeah, at this point, I didn't want him to be on top of me again when he was angry, because last time I was afraid that he was going to bring me to that edge again.
The edge being what?
Death.
So he's over you, he's yelling at you. You told us that at a certain point in time that you rolled away from him. Is this when you rolled away from him?
Yes.
Okay. You rolled away from him, and based on what you told us before, you ran.
Yes.
When you ran, do you know if Mr. Alexander immediately began chasing you? Did he reach for the camera? Do you have any memory of what he did?
I didn't look behind me, but I thought I could hear his footsteps pounding down on the tile.
Okay. Pounding down on the tile. Are you referencing this area here in white? Is this the tile area?
Yes.
Okay. And from what you told us earlier, you began running down the hallway here, this 11-foot, 4-inch hallway.
That's correct.
Okay. Now, when you were doing this, were you looking at your watch thinking about how many second advantage you might have on him?
No.
Did you calculate to yourself, well, I could just run around here and run down the stairs and beat him
No.
down the stairs?
I probably made a quick calculation of the opposite.
Prior experience told you you weren't getting away.
Objection, leading.
Is that correct?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
Did your prior experience lead you to believe that you had the ability to get away in this circumstance?
No, it did not.
So, based on your testimony then and on what you said on cross, you head for the closet, correct?
Yes.
showing you Exhibit 69. You head for this closet, correct?
Yes.
And this is where you tell us that you grabbed Mr. Alexander's gun, correct?
Yes, I slammed the door first and then ran.
Okay. You were asked about that a little bit on cross-examination, how far you were in front of him, that you had time to slam the door. Were you making these sort of calculations at this point in time?
Well, when I slammed the door, the idea was to create some kind of obstacle, but no, not to that degree, not making
Okay.
calculations like that.
And point to us again where in this closet the gun was.
He kept it up in this, well, it was in the corner. It wasn't above the clothes necessarily. There's a corner there. It was in the corner.
Okay. And was it sitting out or was it in a box? Recall where was it?
It was sitting up there. I believe it had a holster.
Okay.
Judge, could she speak up a little bit? I think she said, I think it was in a holster, but I didn't hear that.
Restate your last answer.
Okay. Yes, it was in a holster at one point.
Okay. You say at one point, this position that you're speaking of here this afternoon, is this where you knew the gun to be based on your prior experiences, Mr. Alexander's house cleaner?
Objection made.
Overruled, you may answer.
Yes, that's how I discovered it when I was dusting all the shelves in the closet.
When you went into the closet and shut the door, were you thinking about grabbing the gun?
No, not when I slammed the door.
Looking back at Exhibit 249, when you left Mr. Alexander, to your recollection, he was somewhere around this area, correct?
He was somewhere between there and here. Well, somewhere around here.
And the area of the closet we see here in Exhibit 69, this is the door that is near the bathroom, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So the shortest distance between you and the gun that was back here actually would have been this way, right?
That's right.
But you didn't go that way, right? You went this way.
Yeah, my first thought was just run.
Okay. So as you're running through this closet, as you've already told us, you're not going there with the aim to get the gun because you didn't take the route that would have been consistent with that, correct?
Objection, leading to ask and answer.
Sustained.
When was it that you decided, I'm going to grab his gun?
It was almost immediately after I slammed this door, the one where the photo,
The one that faces, and just, let's be clear here, because I know it doesn't show both doors, that exhibit. We're talking about this door by the bedroom, right? That's the one you slammed?
Yeah, I slammed it and I began to run past the seat, and it was all split second stuff.
Okay. So you shut that door, you run past the seat, and this little bench is what we're calling the seat.
Yes.
Okay. And that's when you decide to grab this gun.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you testified previously that at a certain point in time, Mr. Alexander had opened the doors these double doors that you had shut, correct?
It's just a single door. He did open it.
Okay.
Right as I was, I don't remember the exact moment, it was as I was either reaching up or coming down, the door opened, and then I ran out the other door.
You say reaching up or coming down, you mean from grabbing the gun in this area here?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, you told us then at that point in time that you ran back out towards the bathroom once you had the gun.
Yes.
Okay. And was Mr. Alexander still pursuing you?
Yes, there was a pretty good amount of distance closed almost. He had more traction on the carpet, and he was coming out the door.
Okay, you said that in kind of a pretty good amount of distance had closed. Are you saying that he was closer to you?
Yes, closer than when he opened the door and I was in the corner.
Okay. All right. One of the things that you were asked about on cross-examination was this idea, and I'm going to move this forward a little bit here so we can see the whole bathroom. You come out of that closet first. That's what you testified to, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you've got this gun, and you're holding it, and you're pointing it. So that's what you told us, correct?
Yes, I ran into the bathroom and I turned and I pointed it.
Okay. Pointed it in what direction?
In the direction of Travis.
Okay. And Travis would have been, based on what you told us before, Travis would have been coming out of this area, right?
Objection meeting is where it was.
Overruled.
Yeah, he was beginning to come out of the closet.
Okay. Now, when he's beginning to come out of the closet, do you remember, and you can make note of it, where you were?
I was in the center of the bathroom, somewhere in the center.
Okay.
I know that when we fell in the corner up here somewhat.
Okay. When you said you fell. Now, when you were standing in the first spot, outside the closet there, before you fell, he was running towards you, right?
Yes.
Do you remember him saying anything in particular?
When I started down the hallway after I rolled away, he was still screaming at me. And when...
Objection, she was asked at the time he came out of the closet, was he saying anything?
Sustained.
Sorry.
At the time he came out of the closet, was he saying anything, Jodi?
I don't recall words, but he was screaming and he had an angry tone and a loud volume.
Okay. Were you scared?
Yes, I was very, very scared.
Were you still feeling as you did before that this time is different, that he was going to kill you?
Yes. If he got on top of me, I was worried about that.
You grabbed the gun, you've told us before, you grabbed the gun in the hopes that it would make him stop.
Objection, meeting asked and answered.
Sustained.
When you grabbed the gun and showed it to him, was it your hope that he would stop?
Objection asked and answered.
I have not asked him.
Overruled.
Yes, that was the purpose.
Now you testified, we saw you lunge forward, and you described that as like a linebacker would jump, correct?
Yeah, I think because he crouched a little. That's how
Okay.
I described it.
He crouched a little. Do you recall, and I understand you didn't have a tape measure or weren't calculating the distance at this time, but do you have any idea how far Mr. Alexander was from you when he lunged at you?
No, I could approximate, not distance in feet, but maybe as far as maybe the court reporter.
Okay. Oh. Was he this far?
He was closer.
Was he this far?
At one point he was, but when he actually lunged, I think he was a little bit closer.
So when he lunged at you, was he running?
Yes.
So this was a quick moment in time, right?
Yes.
So he's running at you, and he lunges.
Yes.
And at the time that he lunged, again, I understand that you didn't have a measuring tape or weren't calculating this, but did you view him to be within reaching distance?
Objection, relevant assistant counsel understands.
Overruled.
When he lunged,
When he lunged at you, did you feel like he was in a position where he would have been able to take you down and get on top of you?
yes, if I stood in one spot.
So when you had this gun in your hand and he was lunging towards you, were you backing up or were you standing still?
I don't remember backing up, but I remember wanting to keep a distance between us.
And you told us on your direct and on cross-examination, you remember the gun going off and him being on top of you, right?
Yeah, we sort of fell. He was kind of on the side of me when we fell.
Now, when this happened, and you mentioned you're back there where the marker is now on the screen there, correct?
Yes,
When
a
you
little,
fell?
a little more toward the corner, a little
Okay.
closer to the sinks.
Okay, a little closer to the sink. When you fell in that direction and he was on top of you, your testimony during cross-examination and on direct was this is when he said, "Fucking kill you, bitch."
Objection, meeting.
Overruled.
Is that correct?
The moment I broke away from him, he was grabbing at my clothes and grabbing at me, and I managed to tear away from him. And then at that moment, as I was getting up and getting away from him, he screamed that.
Now, at this moment in time, when he's screaming, "Fucking kill you, bitch," are you looking for the camera so you can make note of it, perhaps if you're on trial 5 years down the road?
No.
Were you making note of where the bullet casing might be in case you were on trial for your actions 5 years down the road?
No.
Instead, based on what you've told us, this is kind of the point in time where you lost your memory, correct?
Objection, meeting.
Overruled.
Yes, that is correct.
And at times, we talked about how you want to remember and where the knife was and the fact that you stabbed him with it and cut his throat. All those are kind of things that you're using logical assumptions, not actual memories. Is that accurate?
Objection, meeting asked and answered. Compound question.
Overruled in the answer.
That's correct.
So, as it relates to this entire exhibit, 249, you don't really know where the knife was, did you? Immediately, after you got up and got out from underneath him.
I have no memory of where it was at rest at that moment.
Okay. You just know it was up there based on the fact of the wounds Mr. Alexander suffered. Is that right? Now, during your cross-examination, you were shown many different photos of water being splashed around, cleanup efforts that you made, you dragging Mr. Alexander's body across the floor. Do you remember seeing those?
Yes.
Do you remember taking any of those actions?
Not those ones.
Okay. Do you remember grabbing the gun and taking it with you?
I don't remember grabbing the gun and taking it with me in the car.
Okay. Do you remember grabbing the rope and taking it with you in the car?
I don't remember putting it in the car.
Okay. Well, to clarify then, do you remember grabbing it from or taking it from Mr. Alexander's bedroom?
No.
Do you remember placing Mr. Alexander's body in the shower?
No.
You told us during your testimony that Mr. Alexander, you remember, not at the time but later on, you remembered kneeling on the bathroom floor, screaming and dropping the knife. Do you remember that?
I remember screaming and dropping the knife. I don't recall the exact position.
Okay. Do you remember how you felt at that moment in time when you were screaming and you were dropping the knife?
I can't really describe it. It's a horrible feeling. I felt I don't know, I felt panic. It's horrible.
Let me show you what's been marked as Exhibit 78. Could you look at that, Ms. Arias? when you went to Mr. Alexander's home on June 4th, 2008, was it ever your intent to leave him lying dead in his shower?
No.
While you were there at his home on June 4th, 2008, did you ever decide that you wanted to kill Mr. Alexander and leave him dead in the shower?
No, that was never my thought that I recall.
As a matter of fact, you didn't want to kill Mr. Alexander on June 4th, 2008, did you?
Objection, leading.
Sustained.
Did you want to kill Mr. Alexander on June 4th?
No, that was not a goal of mine.
Did you want to leave him like that?
That's not how...
Look at that picture. Did you want to leave him like that?
No, I didn't.
Then why was he left like that?
That's how things happened that day. That's not what I...
Objection is non-responsive as to
No,
why
it's-
things happen like, or why she left the body like that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Martinez, I couldn't hear you.
Objection, non-responsive as to why the body was left like that.
Restate your answer.
I don't know.
Did you want to kill him on June 4th, 2008?
No.
Objection has been answered.
Sustained.
Then why did it happen?
It escalated after he attacked me, and I don't remember the specifics. I just remember panicking, and I remember thinking, he's angry, and I remember him coming after me, and he was coming after me, and he was coming after me, and he wasn't stopping.
Did you have any other choice?
When I was cornered, I didn't feel like I did.
After June 4th, 2008, let's talk about the period of time between June 4th and the point in time when you were arrested on the 15th of July, okay?
Okay.
We saw on your cross-examination and in other parts of your testimony that after June 4th, you sent Mr. Alexander text messages, you sent him emails, and you left him a voicemail. Do you recall those issues being brought to light throughout your testimony?
Yes.
Why did you make those? Why did you contact him at all, regardless of the fashion?
I knew I had done something that I felt was wrong, and I was very scared about everything that was going to happen subsequent to that, and how things were going to unfold, and I did those things after the fact to try and make it look like I hadn't been there. I knew that wouldn't hold up for long, but
Check now, it's the narrative.
Overruled.
Well, go ahead, Ms. Arias.
I knew that likely wouldn't hold up for long. I mean, we slept together that day, all that stuff can be found out, but
Well, let me ask you this, Jodi. You said like you felt like you had done something wrong. You told us just a moment ago that you really felt like you didn't have any other choice but to kill Mr. Alexander because of him attacking you. Do you recall that?
Yes.
So, what in your mind did you do that was wrong?
I feel like maybe it should have been me, and that maybe that I made it out of there and I didn't have a choice, but maybe I did have a choice. I could have just let him do what he was going to do and not fought back. And like I said, when I was at the Hoover Dam and I was leaving that message, and I wasn't thinking, I don't even know what state of mind I was in, but I wasn't thinking that he died. I knew that something awful had happened. And then following with the emails and those things, I knew what had happened was wrong. And my philosophy then is that it's not okay to kill somebody under any circumstance.
When you left Mr. Alexander's home on June 4th, was there a part of you that wished you were the one lying dead on that bathroom floor?
What part would this be? I had that
Part
thought,
of
but I
you.
don't know what time period you're talking about.
Well, afterwards, after you left.
Not immediately. I don't remember what I was thinking during those hours. But yes, I've had that thought many times afterward.
On cross-examination, you were also asked about lying. On several occasions, you were asked about, do you recall you were asked about conversations you had with Dan Freeman?
Yes.
And conversations you had with Leslie Udy. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And conversations that you had with many different people, friends and family, prior to his arrest. Do you remember being asked about that?
Yes.
And the assertion was you lied to these people because you didn't admit that this happened. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And we've also talked at length during your cross-examination about the fact that you lied to Detective Flores. Do you recall that?
Yes.
One of the things that you talked about, or that was asked of you, is that these lies were to benefit you. Do you recall being asked that?
Yes.
What you've told us here today and throughout the course of this trial would also be, or could also be, beneficial to you. Is that correct? About what happened on June 4th.
If I had said that then?
Mm-hmm.
Possibly. I wasn't thinking about benefiting myself at that time. Or I was more just focusing on, I just wanted to die.
What's that?
I just wanted to die. But I was conflicted about, I was conflicted about suicide at that point, but I was beginning to think about it some more.
What was then, putting aside suicide, I wanted you to address the specific issue of what was the benefit of you lying to all these people? Was it to evade responsibility as was suggested?
Ultimately, that wasn't my goal. Ultimately, I just didn't want people to know that I could have done something like that, because that's not how that's not how I had lived my whole life. I considered myself a nice person, and I couldn't believe that had happened.
I'm sorry, what was the last part of your answer?
I couldn't believe that had happened, and I was horrified with myself. I was very ashamed.
You mentioned the word shame. But it also came up in your cross-examination and in your testimony in general that you were ashamed of much more than what happened on June 4th, correct?
Yes.
You were ashamed of the sex?
Objection to the meeting.
Were you ashamed of the sexual behavior?
Somewhat. Not too ashamed that I didn't go to my bishop, but certain aspects of it, certainly. I was ashamed of certain aspects of it.
Certain aspects of it. What do you mean by certain aspects of it?
I didn't want certain things about our sex life to be known. I didn't want people to know what I knew about Travis. I didn't want to de-edify him at this point in time, because it just, one, it seemed hateful, and two, it didn't seem like it would accomplish anything. If I'm going to be dead, what's the point? And I didn't want, people are hurting, and I didn't want to hurt them worse by telling them. Like, I didn't see the point in saying, hey, look at all this stuff that happened between us. It just didn't. And I didn't want anyone to know about the violence, because I thought that people would think, oh, it must have been her because he attacked her, or he this or he that. I didn't want people to know that our relationship had that escalation in it, that type of violence, that type of drama.
You had said earlier in your testimony, you talked about how you became, through the course of this relationship, one of those people, referring to battered women. Do you remember talking about that?
Yes.
Objection beyond the scope.
Approach, please. You may continue.
Showing you Exhibit 249. Right here. What do we see here?
The double doors that were the entrance to his bedroom.
Were those the doors we saw pictures of earlier that had locks on them?
Yes. Yes.
This is the place, this bedroom here. A lot of secrets went on behind those closed doors, didn't it?
Yes. Yes.
A lot of violence?
Jackson has to answer.
Well, I would say 4 instances of violence total.
Okay. Some violence
Yes.
and some sex.
Yes.
Lots of sex. Right?
Yes, lots.
This doorway here. On this side of it. People know what was going on outside those doors?
I don't think so.
It was a dirty little secret you and Travis shared, wasn't it?
Jackson meeting.
Sustained.
It's a secret life going on behind those doors, wasn't there?
Jackson meeting.
Sustained.
Was there a secret life going on behind those doors?
Yes, there was.
A life that only you and Travis knew about until June 4th, 2008. Is that correct?
Well, I think other girls may have known with Travis in that room, but as far as between him and I, yes.
Even after his death, those secrets. Because this bedroom is also where you viewed him masturbating to an image of a child, correct?
Jackson meeting.
Over it.
That's correct.
When you were arrested and you were questioned about this. Well, let me back up. After June 4th, did you still have an interest in what went on behind these doors, keeping what went on behind these doors a secret?
The extent of it, yes, I did.
When you were arrested and you spoke to Detective Flores, did you still have the same desire to keep those secrets?
About when I walked in on him, yes, I made a promise.
About everything that happened behind those doors.
No, I told him a little bit that we had engaged in sexual activity, but I didn't want to go into detail, and I didn't want people to know the extent of that, but I thought it would be silly to deny it because I went to my bishop already about it.
My question was, if you did tell him, it's if you wanted to tell him about what went on behind those closed doors.
No, I didn't want anyone to know about. Everyone was saying he was a virgin. That's completely the opposite.
Sustained.
Why not?
I didn't want to throw mud on him at that point, or, I mean, this was a time where people were remembering the good things about him, and I didn't want to take away from that by sharing certain things that I knew. I wanted to just share the good things that I remembered also.
Your plan was to keep the secrets that went on behind these closed doors and take them to your grave, wasn't it?
Jackson meeting.
Sustained.
Was that your plan? What was your plan, to take these secrets to your grave?
Jackson meeting the scope. She wasn't asked about any plans, anything for her grade.
Overall, to me, answer.
My plan was to never talk about the scope of those things. I didn't want to throw him under the bus.
So getting back to my question then, and we've talked about your plans for suicide and things, it was your plan to simply not talk about those things and keep those secrets and take them to your grave. Is that right?
Objection made.
Sustained.
You didn't want to talk about these things, right?
That's right.
You wanted to die before you told these secrets. Is that correct?
Objection made.
Sustained.
Would you rather have killed yourself than tell all the things that you've had to tell throughout the course of this trial?
Objection made.
Overruled.
At that time and for years that followed, yes.
You wanted to keep those secrets.
Objection made and asked and answered.
I haven't finished my question.
Continue.
Was keeping those secrets more important to you than your own life?
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
At that time, yes, it was. I didn't value my life much.
You didn't what?
I didn't value my life much. I wanted, eternal life, yes, but I wanted to be dead.
And in the same regard, you really didn't want to have to come out and tell all of us all these secrets. Is that correct?
Objection made in relevance.
Sustained.
Was it a desire of yours to come forward, sit down in this witness chair in front of the cameras on national TV and air all this dirty laundry?
No, that was probably in the top 3 of my biggest fears.
You wanted to keep them a secret. Is that accurate?
Objection made.
Sustained.
What was your goal? We talked about your goal throughout this process. Your goals of deception, your goals of not telling Detective Flores, your goals of lying. Was it your goal to keep these secrets?
Yes, it was a goal of mine.
Your Honor, I have no other questions.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take the evening recess. Tomorrow morning, there's some matters that we need to address outside your presence. So I'm going to ask that you return at 1 p.m. 1 p.m. tomorrow. Please remember the admonition. You are excused. Have a nice evening. Please be seated. Ms. Grace, you may step down. All right, counsel. I just received some additional questions from the jurors. It looks like we have probably 100 questions. So I'm going to ask that Mr. Nurmi, Ms. Wilmot, you arrive tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Ms. Arias will be here. I'll give you an opportunity to review these questions. Mr. Martinez, can you be here by 11?
I can, but if there's going to be a court proceeding involving anything like this, I would ask that the next of kin also be included if the defendant is present. involving these issues here.
Well, I wasn't going to have a court proceeding. I was going to allow defense counsel to review the questions with their client in the back. Then I was going to give you a chance to review them at 11 o'clock. Then we would go on the record around 11:30, discuss objections.
The only thing I ask is that I be given the same amount of time, since I do have this obligation for the next of kin to probably discuss some of these things with them. So I would ask for the same amount of time, perhaps 45 minutes for each side.
Can you be here at 9:30 tomorrow morning?
Yeah, that's.
My concern is that you believe that you would need a substantial period of time to review these. So if you are here at 9:30, you could have from 9:30 until 10:30, and then I'll give the state from 10:30 until 11:30, and then I'll hear objections. Will that work?
It will for me, thank you.
Otherwise, we'll do it the opposite, and we'll allow
Well, we have the jury coming in at
1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. That would only, based on that time frame, would only leave a half hour to deal with objections of 100 questions. That seems like it won't be sufficient. So,
Well, we'll take whatever time we need, and if the jury's here at 1 o'clock and we're not ready for them, then we'll deal with that at that time. All right? So 9:30, unless you want to come earlier.
well, we could.
Mr. Martinez, you're here tomorrow morning on another case.
Whatever time you want me here, I'll be here, and just let them know, so.
Yeah, I mean, we can, one side can have from 9 to 10 and another 10 to 11. We'll be here at 9.
Okay, 9 o'clock,
You're at 10 then.
and then you're here at 10.
Thank you.
Okay, that'll give us an hour. All right, thank you.